Daniel Carter had served as the human ambassador to the Galactic Council for 23 years. In all that time, not once had any alien species said thank you. He stood at the back of the Great Council Chamber on Station Harmony, watching the other ambassadors take their seats at the central table. The Tyranni sat in the highest chairs, their silver scales catching the light as they looked down at everyone else. The Villani occupied the middle tier, their forearms folded in quiet patience. The Kreth Collective hummed together in their shared consciousness at the eastern section, and the humans stood at the back. They had no chairs at the main table. They never had. The session began with High Counselor Vethrak of the Tyranni rising to his full height. His voice echoed through the chamber like a hammer striking metal. "We will now vote on the matter of human representation in council affairs," he announced. "The proposal is to reduce human voting rights from limited participation to observer status only." Daniel felt his hands tighten at his sides. This was the fourth such vote in 10 years. Each time, humanity lost a little more standing. Each time, they were pushed further to the edges. The vote passed. It always passed. Vethrak smiled with all 3 rows of teeth. The motion carries. Humans will no longer participate in policy discussions. They may observe and serve, as befits a young species still learning the ways of civilization. Daniel said nothing. He had learned long ago that speaking only made things worse. The council did not want human opinions. They wanted human labor, human soldiers, human doctors, and human engineers. They wanted everything humans could give them, but they did not want humans themselves. After the session, he walked through the corridors of Station Harmony. Everywhere he looked, he saw humans working. Human technicians fixed broken power conduits that alien engineers refused to touch because the work was too dangerous. Human nurses tended to sick aliens in the medical bay because they had more patients than anyone else. Human security officers patrolled the outer sections, where crime was highest and nobody else wanted to go. None of them had seats at the table. None of them ever would. Daniel entered his quarters and found a message waiting for him. It was from Commander Lisa Morgan, head of Human Peacekeeping Forces in the Outer Territories. "Did you see the vote?" she asked when he opened the channel. "I saw it. That makes 4 times now. How many more times are we going to let them do this?" Daniel sat down heavily in his chair. "I have been asking myself the same question. The troops are tired, Daniel. They fight and die protecting species that call them primitive behind their backs. Last week, we lost 6 soldiers defending a Tyranni colony. The Tyranni governor did not even attend the memorial. He said he had more important things to do." Daniel closed his eyes. He had heard similar stories from every corner of council space. Dr. Nathan Brooks at the Central Hospital had reported that alien doctors regularly took credit for human medical discoveries. Human cargo pilots flew the most dangerous routes, while alien pilots took the safe ones. Human colonists worked the harshest worlds, while aliens settled the paradise planets. And still, humanity was told they should be grateful for the chance to serve. "Call a meeting," Daniel said quietly. "Every human diplomat, military commander, and colony leader. Private channel, full encryption. What are you thinking?" "I am thinking that we have been patient long enough." The meeting happened 3 days later. Over 4,000 human leaders attended through secure connections. Daniel had never seen so many tired faces gathered in one place. He spoke simply and directly. "We have given everything to this council. Our skills, our labor, our blood, our lives. And in return, we have received nothing but insults and exclusion. I am done pretending this will change. I am done hoping they will see our worth. They never will." Commander Lisa Morgan spoke next. "My soldiers are ready to come home. Every single one of them." Dr. Nathan Brooks agreed. "My medical teams have trained alien doctors for decades. Those doctors can handle things on their own now. They do not need us." They just do not want to do the work themselves. One by one, every human leader said the same thing. They were done. Daniel called for a vote. All in favor of complete withdrawal from council space. No warnings. No negotiations. No explanations. We simply leave. The vote was unanimous. Over the next 2 weeks, humans across the galaxy began quiet preparations. They finished their current tasks. They trained replacements where possible. They made sure no one would die because of their departure. They were not cruel. They were not vengeful. They simply refused to stay where they were not wanted. On the final night, Daniel Carter stood in his quarters for the last time. He looked at the diplomatic credentials on his desk. 23 years of service represented by a small metal badge. 23 years of being ignored, dismissed, and insulted. He placed the badge on the desk and walked away. Across Station Harmony, across every station and colony and outpost in council space, humans did the same thing. They left their posts, boarded transport ships, and headed for the edge of known space. No announcements. No demands. No final speeches. They just left. Commander Lisa Morgan was the last human to leave Station Harmony. She paused at the airlock and looked back at the great station that had been her home for 15 years. A Vellani maintenance worker watched her go with confusion on his face. "Where are you going?" he asked. Lisa smiled sadly. "Home. When will you be back?" She did not answer. She stepped through the airlock, and the door closed behind her. By morning, there would not be a single human left in council space. The council would wake up to empty chairs, abandoned posts, and silence. They had wanted humans to serve without complaint. They had wanted humans to work without recognition. They had wanted humans to sacrifice without thanks. Now they would learn what it meant to live without humans at all. 3 weeks after the humans left, the Craxi Syndicate attacked Vellani Prime. Their warships came out of hyperspace like a swarm of angry insects. Hundreds of vessels armed with weapons that could crack a planet open. The Council fleet scrambled to respond, gathering every available ship for the defense of one of the most populated worlds in their territory. Commander Grethvalum stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the enemy approach. In the old days, human tactical officers would have been beside him, analyzing the enemy formation and suggesting counter-strategies. Humans had a gift for seeing patterns in chaos. They could predict enemy movements before they happened. They could turn losing battles into victories with nothing but clever thinking. But there were no humans here today. All ships, advance in standard formation, Grethvalum ordered. The Council fleet moved forward in the same predictable pattern they had used for centuries. The Craxi had seen this formation 1,000 times. They knew exactly how to break it. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the Council had lost 60% of their ships. The Craxi withdrew with minimal losses, having destroyed 3 orbital stations and killed over 100,000 civilians on the surface. It was the worst military defeat in Council history. Back on Station Harmony, the survivors of the Council gathered in their darkened chamber. The power systems were failing more each day. Food supplies were running low because human cargo pilots no longer delivered shipments. Disease was spreading on the lower levels because human sanitation workers no longer maintained the water systems. "We need to find the humans," Miraset said. "We need to bring them back. And how do you suggest we do that?" Vethrak asked bitterly. He had not slept in days. His silver scales had turned a sickly gray color. "They've made it clear they want nothing to do with us. Then we apologize. We admit we were wrong. We offer them whatever they want. The Tyranni do not apologize to lesser species." Miraset slammed all 4 of her hands on the table. "Lesser species? The lesser species just defeated our entire fleet. The lesser species kept our stations running while we took all the credit. The lesser species saved our children when they were sick, protected our colonies when they were attacked, and fed our people when they were hungry. And we called them primitive. We called them unworthy. We are the fools here, not them. The chamber fell silent. Miraset stood up. I am going to find them. I am going to the edge of council space, and I am going to make contact with humanity. Anyone who wants to come with me is welcome. Anyone who wants to stay here and pretend we can survive alone is welcome to do that too. She walked out of the chamber without looking back. 2 days later, her ship reached the border of human-controlled space. What she found there made her breath catch in her throat. A fleet of human warships stretched across the stars like a wall of steel. There were hundreds of them, more than she had ever seen gathered in one place. They were not the old, worn-out vessels humans had used in council service. These were new ships, sleek and powerful, built with technology the council had never seen before. A voice crackled over her communication system. Unidentified vessel, you have entered human territory. State your purpose or turn back. This is Councillor Miraset of the Villani. I am here to speak with your leaders. Please, I mean no harm. There was a long pause. Then a different voice came through, deeper and harder than the first. This is Commander Scott Palmer of the Human Confederacy Border Fleet. Counselor, you have a lot of nerve coming here. I know we have no right to ask anything of you. But my people are dying. The Craxi are attacking our worlds. Our stations are falling apart. We cannot survive without help. Another pause, longer this time. That sounds like a council problem, Palmer said. Not a human problem. Not anymore. Please. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm just asking you to listen. We listened for decades. We listened while you called us primitive. We listened while you took credit for our work. We listened while you voted to take away our rights over and over again. We are done listening. Miraset felt tears forming in her eyes. Then, what would it take? What would we have to do to make this right? I do not know if you can make it right. Some wounds do not heal. Some trust, once broken, cannot be repaired. But I will tell you this much, Counselor. If the Council wants to speak with humanity, they will have to come themselves. Not as commanders. Not as rulers. As people who finally understand what they threw away. And if they come, will you listen then? Maybe, maybe not. That depends on what they have to say. The communication cut off. Miraset sat alone in her small ship, surrounded by the greatest fleet she had ever seen. Humans had not been hiding in exile. They had not been struggling to survive. They had been building something new, something powerful, something entirely their own. The Council had always believed humans needed them. They had believed humans were too weak, too primitive, too young to stand alone. They had been wrong. Miraset turned her ship around and headed back to Council space. She had a message to deliver, and the Council would not like it. If they wanted humanity back, they would have to earn it. They would have to change. They would have to become something better than they had ever been before. And honestly, Miraset was not sure they were capable of it. High Counselor Vethrek arrived at the council chamber at exactly the same time he did every morning. He expected to see human servants preparing the room for the day's session. Instead, he found the chamber dark and cold. He touched the control panel to activate the lights. Nothing happened. He pressed it again, harder this time. Still nothing. Humans, he muttered with disgust. They cannot even maintain simple systems properly. He walked through the dark corridors toward the maintenance office, ready to deliver a harsh lecture to whatever lazy human technician had failed in their duties. But when he reached the office, he found it empty. The tools were organized neatly on the walls. The work logs were completed and filed. Everything was in perfect order. There was simply no one there. Vethrak felt a small flicker of unease in his stomach. He activated his communication device and called his assistant. "Where are the human workers?" he demanded. "I do not know, High Counselor. I have been trying to contact the human delegation all morning. No one is responding." "Then go to their quarters and drag them out of bed." "I already sent someone, sir." "The quarters are empty. All of them." The flicker of unease became something colder. Vethrak walked faster through the station, his clawed feet clicking against the metal floors. He passed the medical bay and saw alien doctors standing in the hallways looking lost. He passed the engineering section and saw Tirani technicians staring at control panels they did not understand. He passed the security office and saw a crowd of frightened aliens with no one to protect them. Everywhere he looked, there were no humans. By midday, reports flooded in from across council space. Human doctors had left hospitals on every station. They had stabilized their patients, completed their charts, and handed over care to alien staff before disappearing. Human engineers had secured all critical systems before walking away. Human soldiers had withdrawn from every border post, every patrol route, every defensive position. No one had seen them go. No one had received any warning. They had simply vanished like smoke in the wind. Counselor Miraset of the Villani found Vethrak standing in the empty council chamber, staring at the dark ceiling. "The power grid is failing," she said quietly. "The human engineers were the only ones who knew how to maintain the old generators. Our own technicians are trying to figure out the systems, but they say it could take weeks." Vethrak turned to her with anger in his eyes. "This is a tantrum, a childish protest. They will come crawling back when they realize they cannot survive without the council. Will they?" Miraset asked. "I am not so certain. They are a young species, primitive, emotional. They do not have the wisdom to make long-term decisions. They built ships that can cross the galaxy. They developed medicines that save millions of lives. They held back the Craxi Syndicate for 40 years when our own fleets could not. Does that sound primitive to you?" Vethrak had no answer. The first real crisis came that evening. A transport ship carrying 300 Villani civilians suffered an engine failure near the outer trade routes. Under normal circumstances, a human rescue team would have reached them within hours. But there were no human rescue teams anymore. The council scrambled to send an alien ship, but the nearest vessel was 2 days away. By the time it arrived, the transport's life support had failed. 218 Villani died waiting for help that never came. Miraset delivered the news to the council with tears in her 4 eyes. This is just the beginning. Without human emergency responders, without human patrol ships, without human medical teams, people are going to die. Many people. Then we will adapt, Vethrak insisted. We survived before humans joined the council. We will survive without them. Did we? Miraset asked. I looked at the historical records today. Before humans came, the Craxi Syndicate was expanding. They had taken 14 of our colony worlds. They were winning. Then humans arrived and pushed them back. Humans held the line for 4 decades while we built our cities and grew our populations in safety. We did not survive before humans. We were losing. The council fell silent. Commander Grethvalum of the Tirani military entered the chamber with a grim expression on his face. High Counselor, I have troubling news. Our long-range sensors have detected movement along the Craxi border. They know the humans are gone. They are mobilizing their fleets. Vethrak's silver scales went pale. How soon? Days, maybe less. Without human tactical coordination, our border defenses will not hold. We need to prepare for invasion. The room erupted in panicked voices. Counselors shouted at each other, blaming different species for the crisis, demanding impossible solutions. Miraset watched them with growing despair. She slipped out of the chamber and made her way to the communication center. The human channels were all silent, but she sent a message anyway. "This is Counselor Miraset of the Valani. I am reaching out to any human who can hear this. Please, we need to talk. I know we have treated you badly. I know we have been unfair. But innocent people are going to die. Children are going to die. Please, just respond." She waited for an hour, 2 hours, 3. No response came. Miraset sat alone in the dark communications center and thought about all the time she had seen humans working thankless jobs. All the time she had watched them be insulted and ignored. All the time she could have spoken up and said nothing. She had always told herself it was not her fight. She had always believed things would get better on their own. She had always assumed humans would keep serving no matter how badly they were treated. She had been wrong about all of it. Somewhere beyond the borders of Council space, 4 billion humans were building new lives without the Council. They had made their choice. They had chosen themselves, and now the Council would have to face the consequences alone. 2 months after the humans left, the Galactic Council began to tear itself apart. The emergency session started with accusations. The Tyranny blamed the Valani for not controlling the situation earlier. The Valani blamed the Tyranny for driving the humans away with constant insults. The Kreth Collective blamed everyone and announced they were leaving the Council entirely to seek their own arrangement with the Kraxi. Vethrak stood at the center of the chaos, trying to maintain order. But his voice no longer carried the authority it once had. His people had begun to question him. His generals had begun to ignore him. His power was slipping away like sand through his fingers. "Enough!" he shouted. "We must present a united front. We must show the humans that we are strong, that we do not need them, that we will survive without them." "With what?" Miraset asked coldly. "Our stations are failing. Our military is broken. 3 more colonies fell to the Kraxi last week. We have no food, no medicine, no functioning infrastructure. What exactly do we have to show them?" Before Vethrak could answer, the chamber doors opened. A young Torani officer walked in carrying a datapad, his face pale with shock. "Hi, Counselor, there is something you need to see. Classified records from the Council archives have been leaked to the public networks. Everyone is seeing them." Vethrak grabbed the datapad and looked at the screen. His scales went from gray to pure white. The leaked files showed everything. Every dangerous mission humans had volunteered for. Every medical breakthrough humans had developed while alien doctors took the credit. Every time human soldiers had died protecting alien colonies while their families received no recognition. Every insult, every dismissal. Every vote to reduce human standing documented in cold official language. The records showed that humans had been maintaining 90% of critical infrastructure across Council space. They had been staffing the most dangerous jobs, working the longest hours, and accepting the lowest pay. They had been doing everything while asking for nothing in return except basic respect. And the Council had given them nothing. Within hours, the public reaction was overwhelming. Alien citizens across Council space began demanding answers. How could their leaders have been so blind? How could they have treated their greatest ally so poorly? Why had no one ever told them the truth? Protests erupted on Station Harmony. Crowds of Villani and other species gathered outside the Council chamber, shouting for accountability. They held signs with human names on them, the names of doctors and soldiers and engineers who had served without thanks and been forgotten. Inside the chamber, the Council leaders faced each other with fear in their eyes. "This is your fault," someone shouted at Vethrak. "Your insults drove them away." "You all voted the same as me," Vethrak snarled back. "You all treated them the same way. Do not pretend you are innocent." Miraset stepped forward. "He is right. We are all guilty. Every one of us could have spoken up. Every one of us could have demanded better treatment for humans. We chose not to. We chose comfort over justice. We chose pride over partnership. And now we are paying the price. She turned to face the entire council. The blame will not save us. Anger will not bring the humans back. If we want any chance of survival, we need to do something we have never done before. We need to admit we were wrong. Not just in private. Not just to each other. To everyone. To the humans. To our own people. We need to confess our failures and ask for forgiveness. The tyranny do not ask for forgiveness, Bethrak said, but his voice was weak. Then the tyranny will die alone, Miraset replied. I am done with pride. I am done with arrogance. I am going to human space, and I am going to beg if I have to. Anyone who wants to survive is welcome to join me. The next morning, Bethrak was removed from his position. His own people voted him out, stripping him of his title and sending him into exile. The last anyone saw of him, he was boarding a small transport ship headed for the outer territories, his silver scales dull and his eyes empty. Miraset took command of a small delegation of council leaders. They were not the proud rulers who had once looked down on humanity. They were desperate survivors who had finally learned humility. Their ship left Station Harmony and headed for human space. This time, the human fleet did not turn them away. A single escort vessel approached and guided them through the defensive line. You will be taken to New Geneva, the escort pilot said. That is the capital of the Human Confederacy. Your delegation will meet with their leaders. What happens after that is up to them. Miraset looked out the window at the human ships surrounding them. She saw crews working on deck, families living in the larger vessels, children playing in observation rooms. Humans had not just survived leaving the council. They had built homes. They had built lives. They had built a future. Thank you, she said quietly to the escort pilot. Do not thank me yet, he replied. You have not heard what they are going to say. The escort ship guided them deeper into human territory. With every passing hour, Miraset saw more evidence of human achievement. Stations larger than anything in council space. Agricultural ships producing food for billions. Research vessels pushing the boundaries of science. Humans had never needed the council. The council had needed humans. And now, finally, everyone knew the truth. New Geneva was beautiful. Miraset pressed her face against the window of the transport ship as they descended through the atmosphere. Below her, she saw cities that sparkled in the sunlight, their towers reaching toward the clouds. She saw forests and oceans and mountains, a world that looked like paradise. She saw ships coming and going from massive spaceports, carrying goods and people and hope. The council had never known this place existed. Humans had built it in secret, far beyond the borders of known space. They had created something wonderful while the council was too busy looking down on them to notice that the transport landed at a government building in the center of the largest city. Armed guards escorted the delegation inside, but they were not rough or cruel. They were simply careful. Humans had learned to be careful around people who had hurt them before. Daniel Carter was waiting in the conference room. Miraset recognized him immediately. He looked older than she remembered, his hair gray and his face lined with years. But his eyes were the same, calm and patient, and just a little sad. Councilor Miraset, he said, I never expected to see you here. Ambassador Carter. Or should I call you something else now? Just Daniel is fine. I am retired. Officially, anyway. He gestured to the seats around the table. Please, sit. We have much to discuss. The delegation sat down. Miraset noticed that the human chairs were the same height as theirs. There was no high table, no raised platform, no symbol of rank or power. Everyone was equal here. I will be direct, Daniel said. Humanity has no interest in returning to the Galactic Council. That chapter of our history is closed. We understand, Miraset said. We are not asking you to return. We are asking if there is any way forward. Any way we can work together as equals. Daniel studied her for a long moment. Why should we trust you? The Council spent decades showing us exactly what they thought of us. Words are easy. Promises are cheap. What makes this time different? Miraset took a deep breath. I cannot speak for everyone. I can only speak for myself. I watched humans work and sacrifice and die for our people. I watched you give everything and receive nothing. And I said nothing. I did nothing. I was a coward, and I am ashamed of that. She met his eyes. I cannot change the past, but I can promise you this. The Villani will never again stand silent while others are mistreated. We will fight for justice, even when it is hard, even when it costs us. That is my promise, and I will keep it until my last breath. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. I believe you, he said. I do not believe all of them, but I believe you. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. We have built something good here, something fair. We have schools where children learn to respect all species. We have laws that protect the weak from the strong. We have a society based on merit, not birthright. It took us decades to create this. We will not let anyone destroy it. He turned back to face them. But we are not heartless. We know that innocent people are suffering because of decisions they did not make. We know that children are dying in a war they did not start. We want to help them. We just need to know that things will be different this time. What would you need from us? Miraset asked. First, a formal acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Not just from you, but from every species that wants to work with us. They must admit publicly what was done and commit to never doing it again. That can be arranged. Second, the old Galactic Council must be dissolved. We will not work with an organization that was built on our exploitation. If there is to be a new alliance, it must be built from the ground up with fairness at its foundation. Miraset nodded. The Council is already falling apart. Dissolving it officially will not be difficult. Third, and most important, we will not be servants again. Any partnership must be between equals. Humans will have the same rights, the same voice, and the same respect as anyone else. If that is not acceptable, then there is nothing more to discuss. Miraset stood and extended her 4 hands in the traditional Villani gesture of agreement. On behalf of the Villani people, I accept these terms. We will be the first, but I do not think we will be the last. Daniel smiled for the first time since she had arrived. It was a small smile, tired, but genuine. Then welcome to the Confederacy of Equals, Counselor. We have a lot of work to do. Over the following months, other species joined the new alliance. Some came eagerly, ashamed of their past behavior and desperate to make amends. Others came reluctantly, driven by necessity rather than conscience. But all of them came. The old Galactic Council was formally dissolved. Its chambers were converted into a museum, a reminder of what arrogance and cruelty had cost the galaxy. The new Confederacy of Equals established its headquarters on a space station built jointly by humans and Villani, a symbol of the partnership that would define their future. The Craxi Syndicate, faced with a united front of species working together for the first time in history, agreed to peace negotiations. The war ended not with conquest, but with conversation. Years later, Daniel Carter stood in a classroom on New Geneva. Before him sat children of a dozen different species, human and alien, learning side by side. Many years ago, he told them, humans left the Galactic Council without warning. We were tired of being treated badly. We were tired of giving everything and receiving nothing. So we walked away. A young Villani raised her hand. Was that the right thing to do? Daniel thought about the question carefully. Leaving was the hardest decision we ever made. But sometimes, walking away from people who do not value you is the strongest thing you can do. It is not about revenge. It is about respect. You cannot make someone treat you fairly, but you can refuse to accept unfair treatment. He smiled at the mixed faces looking up at him. The galaxy learned something important when we left. They learned that kindness matters. They learned that respect matters. They learned that you do not know what you have until it is gone. The bell rang, and the children gathered their things. Daniel watched them leave together, human and alien side by side, equals in every way. Perhaps that was the greatest gift humanity had given the galaxy. Not their technology, not their strength, but the simple lesson that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. And sometimes, you have to walk away before anyone understands that.